When I push a button, it'll change a few things on the board, like the lighting, some of the pin spots that are controlled. Hey folks, I'm Sebastian and welcome to Atmoseeker, your place for creating an inspiring atmosphere for your tabletop role-playing games. Today we've got some Trench Crusade to look at tonight. I've been working furiously on this trench board with some of the miniatures provided from Westphalia Miniatures for an upcoming Kickstarter. It's coming up soon. And these guys are looking gorgeous. So we're gonna have a look at the miniatures. We're gonna look at the terrain board that we've been working on for the last few weeks in some of the After Dark live streams. If you've missed some of those, be sure to subscribe to the channel to not miss out when we go live next time. But there's a few little hidden tricks that can create a more immersive environment if you're running some Trench Crusade type of wargaming. First thing I wanna look at is some of the terrain. Now we've got some 3D printable terrain here from Diceverse. These are some of their bunker terrain that you can print that are very much themed into this Trench Crusade setting. And we also have a ruined one at the back, and as well as the brutal cross here, which looks pretty cool. Secondly, probably the main bulk of this board is going to be these trenches that we've been making out of just some EVA foam. Mostly that's just because of what I have access to a lot down here. And I wanted to keep this interior nice and empty in case I wanted to run some lights or fog pipes. And I quite like that it's super flexible like this and quite durable. You can see that there's a little bit of texture on there as well. I've just used some Vallejo texture paste for the mud effect, and pretty minimal painting on these ones actually, just to kind of tie in with a lot of the feel of this grimdark setting. It has all those kind of like really desaturated browns and grays, really kind of grimdark, I guess you would say. Now bringing on from the hollowed terrain that we were creating, there are some little bits of lighting, as you can see, flickering around the board. These were created with some lighting kits from the Light My Bricks company. I have a video showing how these were kind of set up, but they've very quickly become my new favorite for hooking a lot of these simple lighting effects into. Very plug and play, no soldering required. So yeah, check out that video if you want to see how these lights came together. And you can also see that underneath these pieces, we've got the typical kind of stage top system that I use a lot with these types of terrain setups, just because I have more room to run all those lighting and fog pipes or any kind of special effects. Plus I quite like how it lifts it up from the surface, especially if you're going to have like a monitor behind it. It lines up a lot better with that horizon line, which is really cool. Towards the back here, you can see I've got a few of the Atmoseeker designed steam pipes. I'm just going to move some of these. And these ones are actual functional as well, because we've got a little pipe going through the bottom of it. And these are just hooked up to a Kostronica fog unit, which is underneath the stage top system down there, which is all remote driven. So if I line this up, you can see we've drilled a little bit of a hole in there. Let's get all that terrain back on here just for the full effect. And because of the way that these steam pipes are designed, they're designed to kind of create lots of different types of effects, particularly for deceleration and creating that nice heavy mist that's going to flow into some of these trenches. And you see at the back here now, when I push the remote for the Kostronica, start to get some little smoking effects that's going to come out of the little chimneys and little vents on those parts, which is pretty cool. And you can see as it kind of comes out from this front vent, it comes out pretty nice and heavy and starts to fill some of these trenches. Otherwise, terrain-wise, we've got a few little scatter pieces that were 3D printed from the Trench Crusade Kickstarter. I did have to scale some of them up just because they were very, very tiny, but they work well, all these kind of little crucifixes. I quite like the crucifixes. I quite like the crucifixes here being used to hold up some of this razor wire. The razor wire itself is just made from some florist wire that has been kind of bound together to create this little, what do you call it, like a wound up? It's a braided kind of texture to it. And then a little spray with some rust textured spray paint to take that shininess off. There is a little bit extra to it if you want to make the little spikes to get that little, those little razor bits to it, but I was running out of time. So I think it still does the job, especially if you want to just wrap it around some of this terrain to kind of feather it and blend it together a bit more. I quite like having them being able to scatter around. Now, before we get stuck into stuff like the lighting and the video backgrounds, one thing I like to do with these types of little skirmish battles is I like to use some of these little pocket lights for like video recording. And even with like cheaper models or different types of models, you'll find that they have little effects mode on them. And these are great if you want to simulate some little rapid gunfire on them. So this is just the Aperture MC. If we turn it on, I've got it set to lightning mode. I think they have other functions on there like a faulty bulb or something. Helps sell the feeling of dynamic gunfire in these kind of situations. And because they're so kind of compact, it's a really easy thing to start to add more movement and life to these types of environments. Now, whilst we're talking about lighting, I've got a bit simple in this particular type of setup. So we're not using any DMX controlled lights like I usually do. This one, I'm using some of the Philips Hue Play bars for the main kind of fill lighting, but I'm also using some pin spots here to create these little nice highlight areas on the map. These ones are just your basic pin spots, but I've made them controllable with some smart plugs that I'm triggering off with the Stream Deck behind here. Now, this isn't the only lighting scene that we have for this board setup. We're going to be triggering some stuff with the Stream Deck here. If you've seen it on the channel before, we like to create some multi-actions that fire off a whole bunch of different commands that will control the lights, activate some sound effects, change the video backgrounds. And I'm not a programmer or anything like that, so it's been really easy to drag in these actions to fine-tune what happens for these different types of atmospherics. When I push a button, it'll change a few things on the board, like the lighting, some of the pin spots that are controlled by smart plugs, the sound effects. So let's take a look. You can also see when we changed this lighting scene, we had a wave light activate from the back. This was also turned on with a smart plug, and it really creates that nice fiery effect for this type of location. Lastly, we just have the monitor up the back, creating these dynamic visuals to help really tie the atmosphere of this location together. I really like using video backgrounds like this because they really inform the lighting color choices that we would use for an environment like this. And these ones are very simply made from some AI generated images in Midjourney with some overlay effects from Kinemancer. I do have a video coming up soon on the channel that will show how to make these dynamic backgrounds, so stay tuned if you don't want to miss out when that comes up. If you're in the Atmoseeker community, I'll share a little behind the scenes of how this is set up, as well as sharing some of the multi-actions that we've set up on the Stream Deck. Yeah, being able to dynamically change between the different styles of weather effects and lighting effects really quickly from one to the other really makes this a joy to play with. So if you want to see how these are set up, subscribe to not miss out on future videos. A special thanks to the folks from Westphalia Miniatures, and good luck in their campaign for these great Red Brigade miniatures. They're really quite awesome, and I can't wait to get a bit of a game in for Trench Crusade soon. A huge thanks to our amazing supporters on Patreon, with a special shout out to my Seeker level patrons, Anthony Von Olen, Blake Darley, Bradley Gilmore, Chris Andrus, Constructed Chaos, Darkfire Designs, Devante, Dr. Justin L. Hamrick, John A. Johnson, Jonathan, Michael Dykes, and Mini Wargaming. Thanks for watching, and until next time, let's create and inspire.